Easy now. Papa got things making headlines.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finna change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you
Welcome to Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by Blue Wire Pods. Shout out to the new company. I don't love it here. My name is Michael-Shawn You guys know where to follow me over on the Twitter, the X, whatever the hell. At Mike Dugar is my name on there, Mikedugar. Shout out to everyone who's watching and listening on our YouTube channel. Seahawks Man-to-Man is the name of the channel. Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. Thank you for all of the love and support there. We appreciate you so much. Chris, go ahead and talk to him.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. You can follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206, and that is CKid206.
All right. As those of you guys on YouTube watching, you can see that I'm coming to you from another poorly lit hotel room. This one in San Jose, California, after the Seahawks lost yet again to the 49ers. For the 4th time in a row, the Seahawks lost a game this season, and it is the 5th time, playoffs included, that the Seahawks have lost to their rival 49ers. This one, as many of the other ones have been against the 49ers, was not all that close. The score was a little closer than usual. I think the Seahawks covered for the first time since 2021 against the 49ers, which is really, really impressive considering that like the spread today was, what was that, 13 and a half? It got up to 14. Yeah, no, that's pretty crazy. It was a pretty big beatdown today, man. And they covered. And that was with Drew Lock playing. It was just, Chris, this was probably, even though the score didn't indicate that it was a beatdown, it in effect felt like another one just because of the way that it looked, the way guys were running free, the way guys didn't tackle, the way the Seahawks couldn't run the ball, the way that they couldn't move the ball on 3rd down, like all of the same things that all the things that happened in a beatdown happened today. It just so happens that a ball goes off Brandon Ayuk and lands in Julian Love's hands, and then Ayuk fumbles. That's like 2, I won't call those fluky plays because those are good plays by Julian, tips and overthrows, and then a really good punch out. But like everything else about this game felt like another beatdown, or at least another one where the Niners looked like they were in a different class. Whether they are or not, they looked like it again. And it's 4 straight. Chris, we are in uncharted territory. Seahawks have never lost 4 straight under Pete Carroll. And now in year, 14, I want to say for Pete, they have the worst losing streak they've ever had with him. And it does not look like they look like they're getting worse as the season goes on. This is the 2nd straight season they've at one point been in first place and then just fallen what feels like a cliff. And a 4th straight, man, because this is a team in a very bad place. We'll get to it. We got a lot of great questions as usual, but this is a team in a very, very, very bad place after losing 4 in a row. They haven't won in forever. We keep smiling in our screenshot and our thumbnail that goes on YouTube, and we look like jerks because they keep losing. But like frowning would make us look weird. That's why, if you guys are wondering, that's why we don't do that. Like frowning would make us look just like, it would look very strange. But man, yeah, we keep smiling in these pictures, and every week we're finding a new way to talk about why the Seahawks lost another game.
To be honest, I don't even know who found a new way. I mean, shoot, you said it earlier.
That's true.
They've lost 4 straight games, and there's nothing new to this pie. It's not executing. Guys not being where they're supposed to be. Penalties, turnovers. Am I missing anything? At this point, I feel like we can just replay the last 4 episodes for you guys. Just re-upload it and say, just change the title. Because we talked about the same stuff. We probably get a few different questions here and there, but I'm running out of words to describe what we watched on Sunday against the Niners. The first play of the game, they start off getting their ass beat. The first play, the first snap. Usually the first snap, it goes for 2 yards. Defense. The first play goes for 70 plus. They run it down to the 3. You're lucky Christian got tired. Shout out to Boye Mafe. He didn't give up. So
and Spoon for making him have to decelerate to making Christian have to slow down. Yeah, it was good hustle plays by the Young Bucks.
We talking like we don't have the video available. I mean, at this point,
that's true. You do have it. Thank you for grabbing that. Yeah.
Look at this. This looks like Madden on rookie. You just hike everything. The hole opens up. Everybody's blocked, accounted for, and all you have to do is run.
This was. I know people who are listening on our Spotify, Apple, or Blue Wire, you can't see, but like y'all saw it. Y'all saw it. We're not breaking it down like play by play with the clicker and circling guys because we don't need to. It's just really just to illustrate how we have to illustrate now because like Chris said, we're running out of like superlatives and descriptors to really go through all the ways that the Niners find ways to generate explosives against the Seahawks defense. Like it really is just it's befuddling, really, to see like a play. It's just like a little toss. Like usually, the Niners and the Rams, they've found some ways to dress up some stuff, put some motions in. I mean, we saw, what was that, 2 years ago, the Niners put like Trent Williams in motion. Sometimes they can get tricky and generate a big play. Chris, there was not one motion on this play. It was just a regular toss, outside, and it's just blocked up perfectly. Yeah, it's hat on hat, and no one gets a hand on Christian McCaffrey until he's 70 yards down the field, or maybe 60 plus, or whatever. It's just totally unacceptable, basic stuff. And that type of play, I think, speaks to something I wanted to open the show with. And it's the supporting cast around the quarterback. Because, Chris, I guess the one new thing we had in this game was that Drew Lock played in the game instead of Geno Smith. That is something new. He started, Drew, that is his first game as a Seahawk. He played because Geno got hurt in practice, which is just super unfortunate for a quarterback who can't get touched in practice to hurt his groin so bad that he can't play. That's just crazy. I didn't see the play. We don't get to watch practice, but super unfortunate. Drew gets to start. And Chris, I feel like today, I wasn't one of those people who, because me and you have agreed all year that like when people have called for like, oh, Drew should play instead of Geno, we've kind of been like, guys, you're bugging. Like you put Drew in, it could easily look worse, and it's not going to look any different, best case scenario. And today was a very good example. They put Drew in, and it looked largely the same. in part because the things around the quarterback have and continue and will continue to be the problem, or bigger problems than the quarterback itself. Pete's been trying to tell us this for like 2 months. Like he's finding mean ways to say it, nice ways to say it, that the quarterback can play better. However, so can literally everyone else. And that includes the coaches as well doing their part. And today was a good example. Before Drew touched the ball, they were down 7-0. Before he touched the ball, man. It's not to say Drew played great today, but I feel like today was a really good example of how Drew, Geno, Vinny Testaverde, or Patrick Mahomes, if you put any of those guys in the 2023 Seahawks, you're going to have the same issues. Like you said, Chris, the defense is going to give up explosives. The defense is not going to tackle. The offensive line is not going to block on third down. The run game is going to be inconsistent. Some of the play calls will be wonky. They'll have penalties. All of these things will happen whether they have prime Michael Vick back there or Nathan Peterman. It's not really changing the overall truth, which is anyone you put back there, anyone who plays quarterback for the Seahawks in 2023, perhaps beyond, but anybody who plays quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks in 2023 will consistently have to outplay his supporting cast on both sides of the ball and in the headsets in order to get this team where it wants to be. And the truth is that is an unrealistic ask of any quarterback, whether that's Geno, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, or Aiden O'Connell in Vegas. That's just CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. It's just a hard ask and an unrealistic ask. And the Seahawks are a good example of that. Today was a good example of that. The season has been a good example of that. But I feel like, Chris, what's also powerful is that you can take other examples from other teams, and you guys can see it that way. Look at the 2023 Chiefs right now. I didn't watch their game today, but in general, they have Mahomes and Andy Reid and a good O-line and a good defense. And yet they look pedestrian a lot of the time. Why? Because something around the quarterback is not good enough. And in their case, it's the receivers. And their ability to run the ball, inability to run the ball consistently. Look at the 2022 Packers. Aaron Rodgers loses Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers didn't forget how to throw the ball. Everything, there were things around the quarterback that weren't good, including their defense for a little bit and special teams in Green Bay. 2019 Patriots. Tom Brady didn't forget how to play ball. He would just throw it to N'Keal Harry. And his I forget who the OC was at that time. I think it was still Josh McDaniels, but the parts around Tom weren't good. And what he do? He found better parts and won the Super Bowl literally the next year. You know, there's tons of examples. I mean, any Chargers season since they've drafted Justin Herbert, the Chargers got exactly what a lot of people want in most franchises. Good, young quarterback who hits right away before he costs too much. The Chargers have never won a playoff game with Justin Herbert, and they probably won't this season. They're going to go his entire rookie deal without winning a playoff game. Think about that. Why? In part because things around him, whether that's the play caller, who they've fired, the coach, who they're probably going to fire, the defense, which has been awful, injuries, whatever, Eckler just forgetting how to run fast. Like, there's been tons of things, receivers that are slow. They've had all these issues in LA since doing what most people would want, drafting a good, young, talented quarterback who hits right away on his rookie deal. The point being, I bring all that long little soliloquy to say the Seahawks have a lot of issues. Could they upgrade a quarterback? Sure, potentially. Will that fix anything inherently? No, probably not. As we saw today, they could have had Mahomes out there today, and he would have probably looked just the same, maybe minus a few throws here and there, against the Niners pass rush behind that O-line, handing it off to Ken. They're handing it off to Zach. Drew, well, we can dissect Drew in our standout plays segment this week. We got an extra day to do it because they play on Monday as well. We can do that. But Chris, it really feels fair to say that if you start listing off reasons that the Seahawks in 2023 aren't where they want to be, I feel like we could talk for about 5 minutes before we get to quarterback. And that's not reaching. There's so many other things wrong. And today was a perfect example. Drew played about as good as, I won't make sorry Drew played good, but Drew didn't play no worse or no better than the guy they've had before. And it really, I think, showcased how the problems they have are much bigger than the guy snapping the ball.
Yeah, Drew made his first touchdown. A great throw. Great read. Back shoulder to DK. DK with a great catch. Got his feet in. I'm okay. I texted you immediately. I said, Drew is on that time today. He is ready to roll. And the defense was not ready to roll. And as you mentioned, everything around him, there's only so much Drew can do. He is not a guy that can go win you a game. Can he keep you in the game? He proved that he can keep him in the game. But after a point, the run game wasn't effective. And when you can't run the football, that just eliminates the next phase of your game. And for the Seahawks, that's play action passing. The Niners, okay, we know you're not going to run it, so you can't. At one point, I believe Ken Walker had 8 carries for 21 yards. I think this was early in the fourth quarter.
I don't think he finished for much better. That's what he finished with, 8 for 21. He didn't finish any better than that. Yeah, that's what he had, 8 for 21.
Me. I saw that, and he didn't get any better. They stopped running the football. They couldn't run the football. You mentioned to me off wax, Zach Charbonnet, he had 2 explosives for over, 40 yards, Mike? 2 explosives. So
I think at one point, Zach Charbonnet had back-to-back runs for 23 yards. I think they were on consecutive carries. That's 2 carries for 46 yards, right? 2 carries for 46. Keep that in mind.
Yep.
Zach Charbonnet finished the game with 44 yards rushing.
So that tells you one thing.
You're right. He had 2 carries that went for 46 and finished the game with 44. That shows you how guys, prime Joe Montana is not overcoming that. I use these superlatives so you guys get the point. There's other issues. Not to say the QB isn't one, but top down. I'm not even just talking about the players too. This is people wearing headsets, people wearing suits, and people wearing pads. Everybody's got blood on their hands right now. You don't lose 4 games in the way they have just because you can lose 4 games the way they have because your quarterback stinks. But this is not that. And I keep talking about the QB position because it's not like Michael Penix is going to come in here and save the day. No, it's not. It's just hard to overcome. It's really, Chris, hard to overcome the headsets. If you got people in the headsets who are letting your players down, that's so hard. That's so hard to overcome. Monday through Saturday, that's hard to overcome. But then on Sunday, it's nearly impossible.
Not much you can do, and it'll be interesting to see the all 22 on some of these throws because Drew was using his legs a lot on Sunday against the Niners, which is good because
Yeah,
Drew
good for
is
him, yeah.
he's athletic. He can move around and he showed it. But you know who is also athletic? The 49ers defense. They chased that
Oh
man
yeah.
down. He did not, I don't think he scrambled for a first down. Every time he tried to get out, he was stuffed, or he got 4 yards, or he got stopped at the line of scrimmage, or he gained a yard. The Niners were really good at chasing him. Actually, maybe he did scramble for a big one because I do remember. Actually, no, he didn't. He threw it, and it was illegal
Yeah,
for a pass.
he ran 3 times for 5 yards. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he had a
he
couple of
didn't
ones
go
where he
anywhere.
should have run. The one that I'm thinking of is when he tried to throw it, I think the JSN scrambling to the right, and he crossed the line of scrimmage, and he should have ran it. And I know he wanted to. He
Mhm.
just wanted to be he wanted to be someone that can throw the football, because for whatever reason in the NFL, if you can run and throw, people like to throw shade at you for being able to run and throw the football. So that makes quarterbacks say, "Oh, I got to stay in the pocket and throw." Just run, man. And Drew had a perfect opportunity to run. He didn't, but I thought he looked fine. And then, as you mentioned, everything around him not being able to run the football. The same problem that we saw with Geno Smith, where I can't run the football. That's part of the game. Although Geno would tell you he doesn't mind just spreading it out and throwing it all over the place. That's cool, but you got to be able to set up the defense. And the Niners did that perfectly. They were able to run the football effectively. And what do you know? George Kittle runs right by Julian Love. He holds him. Doesn't matter. It's a touchdown. And we have that play because this is a perfect example of how the run game is successful. Play action. Julian bites hard. I'll slow it down for you guys, but look at this. Bites hard. Purdy's in the position. Back foot, getting ready to sling it. Look at everybody. You got at the top of your screen, that's Tariq Woolen. He thought they were running the football. Linebackers, you got what? Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner, and then nickelback. That'll be with Jamal Adams there playing in the box. They're all playing up for the run because what have the Niners been able to do successfully? It's the fourth quarter, 21-16, 2nd and 9. They've been running the ball effectively. And then back to Mike's point earlier about Pete saying, well, we knew what these guys were going to do. Well, actually, Mike, did we talk about that on air or off wax?
No,
I'm trying to
we
remember.
didn't mention that yet on air. Yeah, yeah, we
Okay.
didn't mention that
So,
yet. But we can.
real,
We
real
got
quick,
that Pete quote if you want it.
give me that Pete quote, Mike, since you have it up ready. He was talking about what the Niners were going to do. The Seahawks prepared for it by running these certain plays, and they saw it all week throughout practice. And Mike's going to give you the full quote here.
Yeah, so I didn't go to Pete's press conference, but I wish people could see. I'm reading from the little transcript that they give us, and Pete said, he said they ran a sweep for 70 yards. That's their favorite play. We've been practicing against that the whole time. That's what I mean by that, because he said that they didn't run any new stuff. So he was asked about it. He said, "quote There was nothing as special about them running Debo on a deep crosser. He's been doing that his whole career, and we saw it. We didn't play it right." He said, Kittle in a short yardage in a play action pass, they're heavy personnel. He's been doing that for his whole career. There was nothing new about those things. We didn't execute well enough to stop those opportunities. That's the stuff we practiced, and we needed to come through and make those plays. We didn't do it. That's what I mean by overcoming the supporting cast, because that has nothing to do with the offense. That has something to do with the headsets. And maybe not the headsets is fair, because I think this is a Monday through Saturday problem. If you literally practice something and they run it in the game, and it looks like you've never seen it, to the point where people are asking you if you've ever seen these plays because they were executed that poorly. But like, it's hard to overcome these things. These are plays like Pete said. I could probably, guys, if we had more time, I could probably find you a cut up. I could probably make a cut up of them running this touchdown to Kittle out the exact same formation on the same side of the field at the same down and distance. Like, it looks that familiar. I'm pretty sure they scored on that against them in 2022 in the first meeting in week 2. Pretty sure I could find that. Not the same exact play, but something very similar. Chris also has the Debo touchdown. The Debo touchdown is just like the other 2 plays, and then it's nothing fancy. I don't even think there was any motions on this to confuse anybody, because it was 3rd and 11, and all they do is quite literally have Debo just run across the field and run deep. That's it. He runs right where somebody usually should be to cover it. Like, Jamal's right there. He's got vision on Debo. He's got vision on Brock. He's flat-footed. Guy runs right by him. It's not nothing fancy. It's not even nothing. It's not nothing tricky. It's not nothing they haven't seen before. It's not nothing that Debo has not run before. It's a very common concept. And in that situation, it's just that stuff you can't really overcome consistently Whether again, I'm talking about like for people who are like, yeah, we need to use our first pick on a QB. It's like, I hear you guys, I do, but it's like, what is Caleb Williams going to do about that? You know what I'm saying? What is Drake May going to do about that? Even if you're upset about the salary that that the current quarterback makes, that's Gino. He's paid like a top 15, top 10-ish guy if he hits all the incentives. Yeah, it's cool. Even if you save money on a young buck, the money will be spent somewhere else. And it will probably be spent on guys like the guys they have now. It's not like having Gino prevented them from spending money on guys. They're spending like $40 million on safeties, spending money on their D-line. Their defense is pretty expensive. You know, the receiver room is expensive. The only thing that's probably not expensive is running backs and the O-line for the most part. Even their tight end room is up there. So, yeah, I feel like today was such a good example with the plays on offense too, like we talked about with the numbers of the running game, but also on defense too, man. Chris, they gave up 500 yards today.
Speaking of 500 yards,
500 yards.
Before we get to Twitter questions, you were able to look something up off wax. It was the worst top 10 performances.
Oh, yeah. Let me get to this might be the most damning stat I've ever seen. So let me tell you guys how I got to this. I knew they gave up 527 yards because it was in my story today. But in preparation for the pod just now, I looked up how many times they've given up 500 yards under Clint Hurt, the defensive coordinator. In doing so, when I was looking at it's 5 times, by the way. But in doing that, I looked up the yards per play allowed. And I was like, wow, they average 9.9. That's an absurd number. So the Niners average 9.9 yards per play. My editor just sent me a note that that's the 9th worst. And I think as far as Pro Football Reference goes back, I don't know how far it goes back, but I think to the 1960s. So it's quite
Super Bowl
literally
era?
one of the probably since the merger or something like that. Yeah. So it's probably one that would be like the 9th worst in like football history, at least by yards per play. And I was like 9.9, man, that's rough. That means every time they snap the ball, they got a first down on average. And then I was thinking, well, wait a minute. Didn't they kneel the ball down? They did. So what I did is I scrubbed the kneel downs out of the sample. So when you take the kneel downs out of the sample today, the Seahawks allowed 10.2 yards per play. 10.2. That means on average, every time the Niners snapped the ball, now literally not every time they snapped it, they got a first down. But on average, they got a first down when they snapped the ball. On average, dog. What is that? This is not a one person. Let's take it away from the QB. One person does not fix this. 2 people do not fix this. 2 high draft picks do not fix that. 5 high draft picks do not fix that. These are top down. These are the type of performances, or this little stretch, this little 4 and out stretch right here. This little stretch is what makes people make wholesale changes, because it's not just one player. It's not just the D-line. It's not just the linebackers. It's not just the O-line. It's not just the run game. It's not just the offensive play calling staff. It's not just the defensive staff. Like it's not just the head coach. It's not just the quarterback. This is everything. 10.2 yards per play is insane. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life.
How mad is Pete? I'm trying to understand how pissed he must be right now. He doesn't show it in the press conference. I don't know, Mike, if you've ever seen Pete he's off 10 right now. I just can't. I'm just trying to visualize just how infuriated. I thought at one point watching the presser, he wanted to cry. When he first walked up there, I just looked like, damn, Pete wanted to just cry. 4 straight L's, as you alluded, gave up 500 yards. 500. And they've given up 500 yards 5 times under Clint.
Yeah, I don't know how many times it was under Norton. I could probably go look while we're doing another segment.
I don't know if you should, Mike. I don't know if you should.
But yeah, man, that's pretty bad. I'm looking right now. I'm looking at what the worst yards per play allowed is in the league this year. Because 10.2, we're not going to harp on this too long. But man, that's up there, man. I've never seen anything like that. So, oh boy, Chris, this is rough. I found it. Oh no, you guys aren't going to want to hear this. This is not good. So let me take kneel downs out of the sample again. So I'm scrubbing kneel downs from the sample. The 2 worst performances on defense this year by yards per play. Chris, you can probably guess what number 1 is from the whole NFL, not just the Seahawks.
Ooh,
the worst defensive
team?
performance. Oh, come on. You're overthinking. It's easy. Who allowed the most points this year in a game?
Oh yeah, the Denver Broncos.
Bingo. Yeah. The Broncos in that game allowed the Dolphins to average 10.4 yards per play when you take out kneel downs. I don't know if the Dolphins knelt it down or not, but I'm sure they did. 10.4. The Seahawks, second worst, 10.2. Those are the only two performances this year on defense in which the opponent has averaged greater than 10 yards per play.
Yeah, the
So
Seahawks.
today it was damn near as bad as a team that gave up 70 on a per play basis. That is absurd.
Real quick, before we get to Twitter questions, aren't they on schedule to play Miami next season too?
They play the AFC East next year. So yes, yeah, they'll play the Jets, Patriots, Dolphins, and
If I'm the
whoever else.
Seahawks, I'm saying, hey, can we actually just not play them, just because of their speed? Because you know what would happen if the Seahawks played them? It would probably be 12 yards. The run game, the pass, the motions that they have, they would set a record. They might get 1,000 yards, and that's if the Seahawks are able to score on that defense. If it's a shootout, they would give up 1,000 yards. I would put money on the books that they would give up 1,000 yards. Tua would go crazy, throw for 900, throw for 700 yards. Raheem Mostert and the track star run for 300 apiece or 150 apiece. That's 300 yards right there.
Yeah, this is pretty bad, man. My editor sent me the worst yards per play in Football Reference. Yeah, it's the worst is 10.6, and that was in 1972.
We're not talking about earthquakes here.
Some of the other ones are more recent. Is a 2017 here? Looks like the Chiefs did it. Yeah, that Dolphins one is the third worst ever. So yeah, man. Sorry to harp on this, you guys, but this kind of puts it in perspective. We'll get to the offense. We'll get to other stuff, and Pete and John and Jody and all that stuff. But today, for the second straight game, I really just felt like I was watching a defense that needed wholesale changes. It really did. I felt like that. It just feels like guys just don't believe in the scheme, or they don't believe in each other, or I don't know what it is, because it doesn't feel like a talent thing, and we'll get to that. But 10.2 per play with no kneel downs. That doesn't really get much worse. It was worse than that, dog. Like, that's just as bad as a team that gave up 70. It was only 28. But it was on a per play, it was just as bad. That's rough, dog. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
You would think they're out there playing flag football and just not pulling flags, the way they're not tackling and getting to people. But you know what? Let's get the Twitter questions, because we got a lot of them. We appreciate every single one of you for taking some time, coming up with some questions. We appreciate all the love and support there. So without further ado, Mike, are you ready to get to these Twitter questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. I will start with a DM I received, and this is from Edmilson. He asked, how legit is Pete Carroll's hiring process for offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator? Is it okay to question these hires?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because the results aren't there. We're in a results-based business. That's just a fact of it, particularly on offense. I think that Pete's fired every offensive coordinator he's had, and that's saying something, because it's not like these guys are putting up bad numbers. Bevel was like a record-setting guy here, and Shoddy had a bunch of top 10 offenses, and none of them got poached for head coaching jobs. I forget the first dude's name that Pete had. I think Jeremy Bates, maybe. I think he was a holdover from the previous staff, so may not have the same implications. But yeah, like Shane's not on track to be one of these like head coaching candidates. He's on track to be like a passing game coordinator if he after he leaves Seattle. Just like some of the other guys have been, like Shoddy, and I think Bevel was like a QB coach for a little bit. I think he's at the Dolphins now as the QB coach. Either way, point is, I think it's very fair, particularly on offense. On defense, it's a little trickier because we don't really know how much latitude these guys get. But let's say they get a lot of latitude to run their own scheme and coach it how they want and coach the techniques how they want, and they get full control over the game plans and game day. I do think Pete gives these guys latitude on game day in particular. But yeah, the results aren't there. They're just not. These guys haven't even been. Here's the thing about the process of these hires. I don't know about the process, but the results. Chris, these guys haven't fielded an average defense. There's a few ways to measure that: DVOA, EPA per play. However you want to do it. Total yards. I don't really care. Point is, we can all agree that they haven't had an average defense since about 2017. And That's just unacceptable. It really is. In 2017, things fell apart with the LOB. Guys got hurt. Cam Sherm, Cam Sherm, Cliff. But Bobby got hurt down the stretch, KJ. But I just think if you just consistently hire these guys and you can't field an average defense, it don't got to be great. Putting every coordinator up to the Legion of Boom standard, that would just be unfair. That's dumb. That was one of the greatest defenses of all time. It's just hard to replicate. But just middle of the road, nah, man. We've seen years and years and years where the defenses are among the worst in the league. The personnel changes, the position coaches changes, the coordinators change, and we get the same result. Even if the process may be changed or different, the result is still the same, and that is a problem. I mean, eventually you gotta look at who's hiring the cats, on both sides of the ball, because it's like, man, can't get an average defense out there, dog. That's just it's unacceptable, man. You should even when we're in an offensive league. Before we go on to the next question, Chris, I think we can agree. I don't think anybody should ever give up 500 yards. I really just don't think that should happen. I really just don't. I feel like that's a reasonable expectation to ask of an NFL defense in a season. Don't give up 500 yards in a game. I feel like things get funky, but that is a baseline ask, I think. And that's happened 5 times in the last 2 seasons.
To put in perspective, Brandon Ayuk, he goes for over 100. Christian McCaffrey, he goes for over 100. And then Deebo Samuel goes for over 100. That's 300 yards for their superstars. That's crazy. This next one comes from Bacon Brown J. If you two are Jody Allen, what is your plan with the coaching staff moving forward? It's real simple. Very simple for me, actually. After this season, I have a serious conversation. Pete, are you winning a Super Bowl this season? Meaning you're going to stay with this team. If the answer is, I don't know, maybe, I'm going to need you to step down, bro. I'm going to need you to just go out there and, hey, whatever I'm trying to bring is not working. You look at this roster, it's very talented. We've said this from the start. They have talent, but for whatever reason, guys aren't tackling. Guys are falling for stuff that is, as Pete alluded to in the presser, we've been practicing all week. This isn't like, damn, we ain't seen that. Remember that double screen that they ran against the Seahawks last season? And it worked? That's something the Seahawks never seen before. The fake double screen, excuse me.
You're talking about on the same play that the Seahawks ran today that the Niners? Yes, okay, gotcha.
Correct.
Go ahead.
That is a play. Damn, we ain't seen it, but noted. We will be prepared for when that comes up again, if it does. Okay, I give you that. So obviously, when Pete's up there saying, hey, they're doing stuff that we practice all week, something's going on. There's a bigger issue. And it's not Pete's fault, but it's not working either. So I'm having a serious conversation, and it's yes or no. Ain't no maybes. If it's yes, I need 6 weeks in. I need you to be 5-1 or 6-0. And if you're not that, you got to step down, my guy. You got to step down.
Oh, okay. So because you're Jody. You're asking Pete.
Yes.
Are you asking him if he can win a Super Bowl? Well, he's going to say yes if you ask him.
Well, then you're on the clock. Next season.
Gotcha. Okay.
You got to be 5-1 or better. And if you're not, I need you to step down. It's really that simple. I don't care who you got your first 6 weeks. You need to be 5-1 or 6-0. You got to have that. And we will continue discussions once you reach that plateau. You're 5-1. Let's have another chat. How are we looking? I'm watching the games, blah, blah, blah. That's where I'm moving with it. I want action because they did all of these changes, all of this, and they are 6-7, Mike. 6-7. A team last year that they were closing the gap on the Niners, right? They just needed to revamp that defensive line. They didn't really do that. They went out and got Devin Witherspoon. Hit. He is really talented. He's filling up holes. He can hit. He can make plays. He can do it all. But for whatever reason, the entire defense ain't getting it done. Offensively, they've been a mess all year. From third down, guys dropping passes, guys not running. There's a zone defense. Guys are running through the zone instead of powering down, slowing down, and hitting it, sitting in that zone and catching the pass and getting upfield. It's been a mess. So that's what I'm going to do. The floor is yours, Mike.
before I get to that, I did look up, I like to go back and look at the stat if I can. The Seahawks gave up 500 yards, looks like 5 times as well under Ken Norton. So there
No,
you
he
go.
got fired.
It looks like 2 of these were in overtime. Looks like the Cardinals on Sunday Night Football, and I think the Titans, maybe. That the game where Derrick Henry went crazy. I think that game went to overtime as well.
In the second
I'm
half.
pretty, that was crazy. And the worst yards per play that they ever gave up was 8.4 under Ken Norton. So
Oh,
yeah, it's
poor
significantly
Clint.
worse.
I'm sorry, Clint.
Yeah,
That's tough, man.
yeah, no, it's just I don't know what to do. But anyway, to answer that question, if I'm Jody, I think I don't know if I have like one direct question. Actually, I do. I don't know how to word it, but I would need to hear from Pete and John a a plan, like not just like a wish list, but a legitimate like plan for addressing the trenches. Like, can you make us dominant in the trenches in one offseason? I can't really afford for you guys to just like oh, hey, it takes time, blah blah blah. No. Like you have
We ain't got time.
if I were to only give you that's probably how I would word it. If I were to only give you this offseason, could you get us dominant in the trenches on both sides? Like that would probably be how I'd do it. Because I do think that if you have that, you can I'm cool with however else you fill out the rest of the issues there. Because there, as we see, when you're dominant in the trenches, you can just kind of do whatever you want to whatever team you want. You can run single high, you can run two high, you can run to set up the pass, you can pass to set up the run. If you're dominant in the trenches, you can literally do whatever you want. And you can probably have whatever quarterback you want in that case too. As long as it's not like Nathan Peterman. So I don't know why I keep singling him out. Sorry, Nathan. But you guys
Do
get the
5
point.
picks and a half, Mike. My goodness.
Isn't he the quarterback that made Vontae Davis quit his job at halftime? Like that was, I'm
When
pretty
you
sure he
do
was the
that,
quarterback
you're
for Vontae.
pretty bad.
Yeah, that's crazy. My man said, I'm done with football right now. That was insane. Anyway, that would probably be the way I phrased it. I mean, I know maybe you guys want some other ways of putting it, but that would really be the concern for me because you can't just keep not being good at dominant in the trenches each year and then expect that and then cite that as something that needs to be changed and then don't change it in the offseason. It's like, that is going to be that's the difference maker. That's where you build the team. If you can get dominant there, I don't know what they would say to that answer. But if you can, yes. If I don't like the plan, everybody goes. Because for me, that's probably the easiest way to get Seattle where it wants to be is dominate in the trenches. It really is. I know the Legion of Boom kind of defined the last era of success, but I think the most sustainable model going forward, other than having Patrick Mahomes, is to be dominant in the trenches. So that's how I would. If I'm Jody, that's what I want to look at. I want to hear a plan for that. If I like the plan, I'm rolling with it. If not, I get somebody who can execute the plan, maybe answer that question a little bit better for me.
This next one comes from at Rosebug_22, Chris Leeper. At what point do the Seahawks stop firing the coordinators and just tear down the operation?
Yeah, I think we're not quite there yet. I know Chris is kind of. I'm not totally there yet. But I feel like the answer to the question is, what's the last day of the year? I think January 9th or 8th or something like that. Whatever day after that is. That's the question you have to ask. It's almost just like, where does the benefit of the doubt come from? Let's see. I think their last game would be like January 6th or 7th. So yeah, January 8th or 9th or wherever you want to do it. That's the point you get to. I do think it's worth seeing the thing out. Like, fire nobody now. It's worth seeing it through. However, yeah, I do think that's the question you have to ask. It's not just going in there and assuming, oh yeah, if we just tinker this and fix that, we're right there. I feel like that's just not. That would be insane at this point to view it through that lens. It's almost like the question now has to become, why don't we make wholesale changes? And then if you like the answer to that question, you can proceed. But that is the question you have to ask, because it's not just, we've been through so many coaching changes, position coaches, so many player changes, so many like just iterations of the team without changing like 2 or 3 guys. So at some point you do ask, all right, well, when do we change the 2 or 3? And yeah, I think that you asked that question on January 8th or whatever. That's assuming they missed the playoffs. If you make it, then you delay that a week or whatever, or whenever the last game is. But yeah, there's the framing of the postseason question has changed now. It's not, all right, can these guys get it done? It's like, all right, what is the argument for keeping this status quo? Maybe that's been the question internally before. I don't know. I don't even know what Jody voice sound like really, but that for sure has to be it now. It's like, all right, what's the argument against making wholesale changes? Is that strong enough? Because right now, yeah, looking at the current product and then taking in the whole sample in a post Legion of Boom world, yeah, that has to be the question. Because I really feel like, let me whisper when I say this, there's probably not a good argument for maintaining the status quo. But maybe we can get to that another pod. But right now, yeah, it doesn't look like that argument will be very strong.
This next one comes from Benjamin Riley. The Leonard Williams trade suggests the front office really believe this team could win the NFC this season. Do the Seahawks have a self-scouting problem?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I really think it's good because I'm not really sure what the answer is. Because on one point, like when they made the Leonard Williams trade, I thought it was fine. I thought the process was fine, particularly in the wake of losing Chinanu. I figured, yeah, either you try to go get Montez Sweat, they probably didn't want to pay him that money, which it's fine. Go get Chase Young, sounds like they didn't want him. They go get Leonard Williams. They think he's better than Sweat and Chase. It's kind of what it is. I don't really care about that. I feel like the process was fine. I thought at the time their D-line was solid because it was. They were like top 5 in sacks. They were stopping the run. Like at the time, it looked like you basically lose Chenna and you plug in Leonard Williams. On paper, that was fine. Like that, viewing this question through that lens specifically, I think the answer is, do they have a self-scouting problem? The answer to that is probably no. Big picture, the answer is probably yes. And I think it's not necessarily just with the D-line or in the wake of the Leonard trade. I really feel like I think that the issue is probably self-scouting. Like, I don't feel like when the Seahawks look at their issues, particularly on offense, I feel like this is most notable. I feel like on defense, they kind of address these things. But on offense, I feel like when they look at themselves on offense, they don't identify the right changes and then adjust them accordingly. I feel like the only way we've seen that happen is Chris with screens. I feel like that's about it. Otherwise, I feel like the same things are the issues, and then they watch the film and then try to correct them and feel like, oh yeah, if we just execute better on this, it'll work. And that's not just this year, for years, I feel like. So I feel like the self-scouting issue may not be the front office to the roster. I feel like it may be the self-scouting issue may just be the staff and the players when it's time to like get to the drawing board. It's not coming through clear. The corrections are not being made. I really feel like that's the case on offense because honest to God, I really don't understand how you'd be this bad on third down for this many years in a row through different quarterbacks, largely the same receivers, but changing weapons, changing play callers, changing passing game coordinators, changing O-line coaches. You've changed all these things. You've had all this film. You've had all these different reasons why the third down offense hasn't been good in particular. And it just can't change. And there's other stuff there, but like to be so bad at that thing is what really makes, when I think of self-scouting, I think of being able to look at what's killing you and just to be able to not fix it. Like, I think that part is, I feel like they do that on defense. I do. I feel like we've seen the defense be like god awful at something and then fix it for like a month. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the defense gets the benefit of the doubt. And we've seen that. We've seen them be bad at like rushing the passer and then all of a sudden be the best pass rush team in the league for a month, or to close the season really strong rushing the passer or stopping the run or getting turnovers or whatever. Or stopping screens. We've seen them change that midseason as well. But we very rarely see, like, I think the offense just start fixing something, even if it's super glaring. That's where I think the self-scouting issue is, the self-scouting deficiency, I should say, is most evident, I think, in the offensive side of the ball.
This next one comes from Jeff at UW Moose. Does the front office have a legitimate Pete succession plan?
Oh, probably not. And by front office, this just has to be framed through Jody. I don't think you can separate Pete and John at this point. I feel like if you get rid of one guy, you're probably ready to get rid of the other guy. Kind of a package deal, I would assume, unless one guy just quits. which it could happen. I wouldn't rule out that scenario. I doubt it though. Like I feel like if you're Jody, again, I don't even know what her voice sounds like, so let me just put my Jody hat on here. I'm doing a lot of speculating, but if you're Jody, I could easily see a scenario where she didn't think she needed a succession plan before maybe today. But even today, it's easy. It's easy. I wouldn't see it this way if I were her, but I could easily see a world. I'm sure you guys could agree whether you would do it this way or not. You could easily see a world where she's like, yeah, we were competitive in a game where we had our backup quarterback playing, on 48 hours notice. Is that the fair way to look at this game? Hell no, it's not. No, it's not at all. But Chris, we could probably see her looking at it that way, like lose your quarterback, guy gets hurt like Thursday evening, Drew has to, practice Friday, Saturday, and even then, you don't really know whether Drew's actually going to start because Gino went through a pregame workout today as if he could start. So it's easy to look at it that way and be like, oh yeah, we're 6-7, we can still go 10-7. You know what I mean? Like she could easily look at it through rose-colored glasses that way and then not even want to form a succession plan. So I my guess would be nah, if she don't have one. Should she? Sure. I doubt she probably would at this point.
This next one comes from Abraham Newelt. Can you envision a scenario where Pete Carroll steps down as head coach and takes on a different role while grooming the next coach in line?
I could see this. Go ahead.
Oh, real quick. Absolutely not. If Pete steps down, he's out of here. He ain't about to, bro is not about to step down and be like, you know what? I love me some Clinton. I'm going to get him to be the head. No. If Pete steps down, he is on the next trip to Hawaii, or maybe not Hawaii. He's out of here. He's going to go on a beach somewhere, and he's 70 plus. He's done. He's won at every level. He is definitely getting out of coaching for sure. I'd be stunned if he stayed to do anything related football wise if he actually stepped down as head coach. Like, for example, they lose against the Eagles. Hey guys, just want to announce that I'm actually stepping down. I think the 12s, Jody, blah, blah, blah. You're not hearing from Pete again. He might write a book saying farewell. That'll be it. Floor is yours.
No, I think Pete, Mike Tomlin, and Bill Belichick are all kind of in the same little space right now. I think Harbaugh would be here too, but I think that the drafting of Lamar Jackson really changed the math over there in Baltimore. Or otherwise, he would probably be in the same boat. In that, like, at some point, those guys are going to have to probably decide. I don't think any of them are going to get fired. I think whenever they're done, whether that's this year, next year, whenever, I think all those guys are going to get to like mutually part or, walk away, or, how that goes. It transition into a role that says like, oh, you're a consultant dude, but really that's just for contractual reasons. You're like Chris said, you're in Florence, Italy, just chilling, not doing a damn thing with the football operations. I think all of those guys, if they get to that point, and this is applicable to Pete, and I think Mike T as well, and Bill, that they would probably have to get to a point where they feel like their messaging is no longer resonating. And it's not necessarily like, our offense isn't good or our defense isn't good. I feel like that's from a philosophical standpoint. Like if you're Pete and Mike T and Bill, they all have their tenets, their core tenets of their programs. In Pete's case, it's like always compete, finish, all that stuff. I think the scenario where Pete resigns, and I'm with Chris, he's out of here. But the scenario where he resigns would be with Pete sitting down and being like, I believe in the core tenets of my program, but my club is not reflecting those for whatever reason, and feel like whatever I'm trying to get across is not getting across. Now for Pete, that's going to be really tough. I don't even know if he can get to that place, but he would have to get there, I think. And the way to get there is to look at whether your team is competing, like, because that's right. That's the main one. Is your team competing? Well, they used to be a team that never lost by more than like 8. Now it seems like they're losing by double digits every other week. Multiple games in which they are not competitive. They're not finishing very well. They've been bad late game. They've been bad second half. They've had multiple seasons where they've gotten worse in November and December. Remember, that used to be the opposite. They used to turn up in November and December. It was very easy to believe in the philosophy then. I feel like if Pete sits down and is like, yo, those core things are not hitting. Guys are not competing. Maybe we're making excuses. Maybe we're not finishing. Like we're not believing. The believing one will be tough to quantify, but he would know it when he sees it. I feel like if those things aren't hitting, that's when you get a guy like him to walk away. Same thing with Mike T, for what it's worth, and for Bill. For Bill, I don't know what it would take. Maybe he just runs out of sleeveless hoodies. I'm not sure. Maybe Robert Kraft just kicks him out the door. I'm not really. I don't know. I don't know him that well, but I do think all of them are in a similar space where it's like they should. If I was like put in their brands, I'd be like, you guys should sit down, look in the mirror, and feel like are the core philosophies that I'm preaching to my guys hitting? From my scouting department to my front office to my players to my coaches, are they hitting? Can I prove that they're hitting based on our on-field product? If the answer is yes, go ahead. Coach T can't coach no more. If the answer is no, go ahead to Barcelona, my boy.
This next one comes from Eric Wall. Do you see a scenario in which Pete Carroll's perpetual optimism becomes a detriment to the team? It seems like staying so positive all the time could blind him from what actually needs to be done.
And we're getting a lot of like envisioning and projecting. This is kind of crazy. We're getting a lot of work. Like everyone wants us to put on our predictive powers here, which is fine. I get it. It's just kind of funny. No, I don't think, because here's the thing about Pete's optimism. Pete's optimism is still paired with harsh truths. Like if you, and we've heard this from guys before. I've heard it publicly and privately. Pete's relatively straight shooter. It's not like he's just, like he doesn't see the bad. Of course he sees the bad. He's more upset about the bad than he lets on publicly. And I think part of that is because there's no benefit to him just openly being pissed. You know what I mean? Calling guys out or whatever. Unless it's something like penalties or, just dumb stuff, poor stuff on social media, guy get arrested or, stuff that's obviously bad. But like, there's really no point in for Pete to just get up there and sounding all doom and gloom publicly. Like, I do think there is something to be said for the power of thought, positive thinking. Russell Wilson was on that same stuff. So I think that's part of it. Publicly, it makes sense for him to do that. And privately, it makes sense to have that mindset, because if you dwell on what you can't change anymore, that's just bad mindset. All you can, like right now, they got their butts whooped again. All they can really focus on is fixing things to beat the Eagles. If you try to focus on any more than that, or try to be too pessimistic or whatever, you're going to get your butt whipped by the Eagles, and then you get your butt whipped by the Titans because you're dwelling on the Eagles. You know what I'm saying? It's a slippery slope. So I think because his optimism is paired with like harsh truths about like what's actually wrong, whether it's with him or his coaches or the players or whoever. That's what Tell the Truth Monday is, why the answer to this question is no. I love this question though. That's why we kept it in here. But yeah, they have Tell the Truth Monday, and Tell the Truth Monday gets real. It does. Guys feel crappy when they're on that big screen. For real. They'll tell you, getting put on the big screen on Tell the Truth Monday or in the film room, that feels awful. And because they have that, that's why you can pair that with optimism. And the optimism help them move forward too. Like, you can't change. Once they land, they get 24 hours to be mad about this. By Tuesday morning, you have to move forward. You have to, whether they won the game by 30 or lost it by 30. And that's another one of those Pete things that if that's working, then the answer is, yeah, you keep the guy. But Chris, quietly, it really hasn't been working. We've seen them. No, for real. We've seen a couple examples now where they wasn't ready to play the Niners on Thanksgiving. They wasn't ready to play the Niners in week 2 last year after beating Russ. Like, we've seen some instances where guys, if the Monday through Saturday work wasn't done, and Monday through Saturday is where Pete's is best. Sunday is kind of whatever. Monday through Saturday is supposed to be his bag. As soon as that's not his bag, that's really when it's time to change.
This next one comes from AK at ARC_1990. How long do Pete Carroll and John Schneider keep their jobs if the Seahawks continue just being an average team?
Oof, man. People want these cats gone. They want these cats gone. Chris, what do you think? How long you think? You think let's say they finish. All right, let's go. I'll give you a couple scenarios. Let's say they finish 9-8, and I'll give you 3. 9-8, and they make the playoffs, losing the first round. What do you think?
Gotta go. We've seen that.
So
that has been happening over and over and over. But continue.
So that's scenario 1. So that means that answers this next one then. So no playoffs, gone no matter what.
Yeah. Shake it up, man.
So 9-8 or 10-7, whatever. You make the playoffs, you go to Dallas and win, or you go to Detroit and win, and then you end up playing the Niners in the divisional round, and you get beat handily. What do you think then?
I listen to Pete's presser, see where it went wrong, and then I fire him.
So you just
want to get
okay. That's fair.
just want to get the assessment, because last year the assessment was got to get better up front. Seahawks said, "Damn all that. We're drafting a corner. We're gonna make a few adjustments, bring guys back." They addressed it. Did it really result in them being 10-3? No, they're 6-7. It's kind of a problem. They didn't.
I'm with you.
They didn't get better. Everything that they talked about, their goal was to be the Niners. Their goal was to be 10-3, and the Niners would be 6-7, tied with the Los Angeles Rams. That was their plan. That plan has backfired. Not having a healthy O-line, not drafting someone high to protect your quarterback in the trenches. As you just talked about, someone asked earlier about, what would you do next year pretty much with Pete Carroll and this team? Your first thing is, okay, I got to see what you guys about to do in the trenches. Well, that's important here.
Yeah.
You talked about it last year after getting curb stomped by the Niners. Since you guys packing, you're like, got to get better up front. And the whole offseason, everyone's assuming you guys are going to take the best player available to improve the D-line. You don't do that. And I give the Seahawks credit for drafting Devin. He's been a hit. But the D-line is still, here we are, week 14. It's not like Brock Purdy was under duress the whole game and they just ran the football. No, Brock Purdy did what he wanted, threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Floor is yours, Mike.
No, that's fair. I was letting you cook. Do your thing. No, you're right. Yeah, I'm with you. I just want to see it play out, how it looks, because how it looks does matter to me. But I'm with you. If we just look at the results, though, yeah, well, because I do think that matters in terms of like.
I hear you.
I'm really big on the trenches in terms of the on-field, the player part, like the trenches. I'm really big on, but also just like the competitive part. Because if they had been losing by the skin of their teeth in some of these, then I could believe. But they're bad in situational football on both sides of the ball. They're getting worse as seasons progress, seasons plural, and they're no longer competitive, and they're no longer consistently competitive. There's multiple blowouts the last few seasons. That's problematic for me. So, but let's say down the stretch they get to a 9-8 or whatever, competitive. I'd see some worlds where I'm okay with the status quo. There's like maybe only one world, really, actually, and that's like a last-second field goal loss to the Niners in the divisional round, maybe. And that's being generous, because that would be 6 straight to the Niners. So, and that would be like a 10th straight season without making the NFC title game. So that'd be tough too. But even, I'd say maybe even that scenario specifically, or making the NFC title game. So probably those only 2. So I think I'm generally with you. I still would like to see it play out. But like I hinted at earlier, the argument for not making wholesale changes it's very. I mean, you need Johnny Cochran to make that at this point. I feel like you really do. It's an argument you can make, but each week it gets tougher and tougher to make.
This next one comes from Kimwell Santana at Santana_speed. Is it time for something new? Even if it's not better, it's getting harder and harder to watch the same problems every single week.
Yeah, I like this question because there's something we've hinted at. I probably say I like every question. You guys probably think I'm just saying that. I'm not. Me and Chris really literally go through each question and I say which ones I like and don't like. Yeah, I am of the impression that sometimes change just to have something different is worth it. Generally, change for the sake of change can get dangerous. That's true. And there's plenty of examples across all team sports that can show you why that can be dangerous. However, sometimes I do just think, if the same issues, now it's not the same exact issues literally every year, but they're largely the same. This ain't the first time the Seahawks have had problems with penalties. This ain't the first year the Seahawks have had problems with explosives. This ain't the first year the Seahawks are bad situationally on offense on third down. They've been better in the red zone before, but this ain't the first time. This ain't the first time we've said, "Oh man, they need to be better up front." Like Chris said, like you get just different versions of the same problem. It's like a Tyler Perry movie, And once you get that, man, yeah, it is time for something different. I do think you get to that point. You risk when you do that something different that you end up getting something worse. Like I do acknowledge that that's probably actually a likely scenario, really, to be honest. However, to keep doing the same things and convincing yourself that like where it's like a piece or two here or a retool there, man, that's just tough. That's a tough sell. And I do think you don't really got to isolate it to just Seattle. I think you can look at Pittsburgh and look at New England and see very similar thematic things with the guy who's been there forever and that regime and all that. It's like those same issues can be applied to those franchises as well, even though the Steelers' record is a little better. You can see those problems over there. So yeah, I do think that argument you don't need Johnny Cochran for to be like, maybe we just need something different for real. Like if you just walk in and be like, hey Jody, you walk in, any of you guys, not just me or Chris, you just walk in and you be like, Jody, I feel like we just need something different. Like even if it's not guaranteed to be better, I feel like we just need something different messaging, different voices, different philosophy on how to go about this. What do you think? Whatever she says back to you, probably not about to be that strong. She's going to say something back, for sure. Any of you guys can probably have a retort to that as well, probably a fair one. At the same time, is it that good of a retort? You know what I'm saying? Is it better than my retort back? If I'm just like, yeah, but this year we had that problem. That year we had that problem. Then we fired that guy who was in charge of that and still had the problem. We fired that dude who was in charge of that. We traded that guy, traded for this guy, drafted that guy, cut that guy, released that guy, signed that guy in free agency, did all this stuff, and came back to the same point. So I think I kind of look at it that way. Like if you walked in and was like, "Yo, Jody, how you feel about something different? You gotta do something different with this organization." Whatever she says is probably not gonna be that strong. I really feel like she could say something, but I bet you she wouldn't say it to us out loud, boy, because that would sound, it would sound crazy. It would sound crazy. Like I would love to ask her that question. I would love to, because I guarantee the answer would just look ridiculous. It'd be one of them things you put on a quote graphic and you read it in big old white letters and you'd be like, damn, that looks crazy. Like when you read it, I guarantee you it would, because it's hard. It's just becoming harder and harder to make a case for maintaining the status quo.
This next one comes from also known as Phil. Do the Seahawks have a scheme play call issue to put players in the best conditions to succeed, or are the players just not that good? Jamal Adams in mind and others.
Yeah, Jamal had a bad week. Give up the game-winning touchdown, put the spotlight on your back with your social media stuff, doubling down on those comments this week, putting more spotlight on yourself, and then you go out there and you give up. It's one thing to have other, plays that the naked eye wouldn't recognize, but he's giving up stuff. He's not the only one, but this question was about him. And again, he had the other stuff going on, but he's giving up stuff that like the naked eye doesn't need to. You don't need like a football mind to know that, hey, bro, you got to turn and run with that. Like sometimes it can be the case where the guy who's in the picture, it ain't his fault. That happens in football sometimes, particularly at safety. But like he's had some plays, this one, the Jake Ferguson one, where it's just like, nah, man, everyone watching the game knows that was your guy. He ran by you. That's tough. But I do think this play is an example of how, nah, man, sometimes the scheme stuff is fine. It really is. Guys, I think this year has really been, particularly on defense. Chris, let's focus this on defense. I really feel like the tackling, when it's been so bad, that's been a bigger issue than scheme to me. I don't know where you are on that, but I feel like guys are in position to make plays. Even Jamal. How many times have we seen Jamal come at the quarterback and not make the play?
He hasn't had a sack all season, Mike. That puts it in perspective.
Yeah,
and he's been back there.
He's been sent, probably not as much as previous years, but been sent enough that you would expect him to have a sack. I don't think he's had one since signing the deal. And I think I'd have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't had one since 2020 against the Commanders. I want to say. I think they were the Washington football team back then.
Damn.
But yeah, I don't think that it's on defense. I don't think it's guys aren't being put in the right position thing. I kind of felt like that a little bit with Jordan, a little bit, but that's kind of minute. It's a small thing. In general, I think guys are there. Guys got to make plays on the ball. Guys got to not hold. Guys got to not make illegal contact. Got to not hit guys in the face. Got to make tackles in the hole. Like I feel like all that stuff, guys are there. On offense, though, oh man, we spent like a month watching them throw the dumbest stuff to Jackson Smith and Jigba, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just like what are we doing here? You know, for some reason that like I don't know if this can't be by design, but all they have Tyler Lockett do is run out routes. It's crazy. It just runs a bunch of out routes. And we've seen teams sit on those and take them and intercept those. I think that's Geno Smith's most intercepted route this year, I think. Don't quote me on that. But you guys get the point. You know, guys are sitting on that. So I do feel like on offense, we've seen things not be put, guys not be put in position to succeed a lot more than on defense. On defense, I feel like for whatever it is, guys not believing in the scheme, not trusting the guy next to them, not having the right mindset, effort, whatever it is. I feel like on defense, scheme stuff, I feel like that's not the issue. On offense, I feel like it is. So it's different on both sides of the ball. But either way, all of it's bad. All of it's very, very bad. To have this many losses in a row this way, all of it's bad.
This next one comes from David W. Slater 89. Mike, do you remember the wood burnings that he did for us?
Yeah. I got mine. I still got mine at the house.
Yeah, me too. He has a couple more for us, so I can't wait to see those. But he wants to know, what position do you think the Seahawks need to address this offseason? Hint, hint. You might have alluded to it earlier. Let's see if you stick with it.
Well, I know everyone's really upset about the safeties and the linebackers. But I'm a trench guy. The more I learn about football, the more I become a trench guy every year. I lean that way. It's not to say you can't upgrade other spots. Of course you can. But for me, I'm a trench dude. Like I feel like if you're like in your draft room and you're sitting there and you're like on the clock at 19 and you can't decide, like, oh man, what do we do? Your default should just be close our eyes and take the highest drafted guy in the trenches on our board. Don't even matter what spot. Just close your eyes and take him. If it's a right guard, a nose tackle, edge rusher, just take them. Because you can just never have too many guys there. You just never can on either side of the ball. So I feel like that's always where you go. I really feel like today or this season was an indictment of the situation up front on the O-line in particular. They can't have an identity because of all the inconsistency with that group. And today was another issue. But yeah, D-line, same thing. Like they haven't had when was the last time the Seahawks had a tier 1 pass rusher? Like really tier 1, like for real. Like for me, for example, I think let's walk through this real quick, Chris, before we go to the next question. For me, the tier 1 pass rushers are in the interior. I think there's only 2. I got Chris Jones, and then I got AD. There's 2.
Aaron Donald
in the interior. Yep, Aaron Donald. Yes, thank you. And then on the edge, I would probably say tier 1 is in no order: TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby. That's probably my tier 1. If you want Hassan Reddick in there, that's fine. And then
sounds legit.
Yeah. And then if we're missing someone, sorry, but that feels like my tier 1. And then tier 2, you got like Bosa's and the other Bosa and Khalil Mack's probably in there, Trey Hendrickson, Aiden Hutchinson. There's some other guys. You guys get the point. The Seahawks need a tier 1 guy. Don't care what position. They need a tier 1 guy. They haven't had that. Go get that. I don't care what position the guy plays. Go get it. Actually, I do care. Make sure it's not a safety. But other than that, go get it. You know, like when was the last time the Seahawks had an all-pro offensive lineman? Go get that. Please. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I start. I'd probably would do that every year. The Seahawks, if they literally only drafted offensive and defensive linemen for an entire draft, I'd be like, yep, perfect. You get an A.
Was JB was an all-pro when he had 10.5 sacks in 2018, wasn't? No. So I guess
I don't think the Seahawks have had an all-pro defensive lineman. I don't know if they have under Pete. I'd have to go look. I doubt it though.
It was by
Let me
committee,
look at
huh?
that while we go through the
Frank
next question.
Frank Clark, he had 13 in 2018. I think he
Frank
led
didn't
the
even make the
team.
Pro Bowl that year.
Yeah, there's some monsters. Like you said, it is what it is. But the next question we got comes from Brett Peterson. Thoughts on linebacker and safety play this season?
Yeah, inconsistent, and I can say that for every position, literally. But yeah, inconsistent, just not solid enough. We get some good JB games, we get some bad JB games, we get some good Bobby games, we get some not so good Bobby games, we get some good Quandre games, we get some bad Quandre. And bad's probably a little strong, but we get some good, and then we get some not as good. Same thing with Jamal. We get good, we get not as good. Like Jamal is not just terrible. I feel like Jamal gets a little bit of bad rap in that regard. But like I said, he's not doing himself. He's putting the target on his back, so he's opening himself to more of that scrutiny. But either way, we get some good spoon games, and we get some not so good spoon games. Sometimes in the same game. Like I feel like spoon at nickel is noticeably different than spoon at left corner, for instance. We get some good reek games. We get some not so good reek games. You know, I feel like, excuse me, that's DB, that's corners, but you guys get the point. I feel like you could say the inconsistency thing about everyone is not just those groups. I feel like when you look at the safety group in particular, I feel like, and I do feel like this part falls more on Jamal than the other two, but they're also included, is you're just not getting the return on investment. The Seahawks, I think, have the most expensive safety room in the league. When you watch the Seahawks, you don't get the best safety room in the league. And that's what you should get. You should get the return on your investment. You just don't see that. That, I think, is the problem. And I don't know everybody's safety room, but I don't think that right now they're even performing as a room like a top 10 safety room. And it's a huge problem. I'd have to go back and look at every safety room. But I feel like we can all kind of agree it ain't what the dollar amount says it should be. You know what I mean? And that's clearly not good enough. The linebacker room, you probably are getting the bang for your buck there because you're not spending a lot. But in general, both of those position groups have been inconsistent. Tackling, coverage stuff. Like today was not a good day for the safety room. You got guys giving up touchdowns, guys missing tackles, guys taking bad angles. Just not a good day. Not a good day. Everybody's got to do their job. And everybody's not doing their job consistently. That's, again, the whole unit. Hell, Chris, that's the whole team. But we got to ask about linebackers and safeties. Yeah, no, it really is the whole team. And I'll tell you that. They're an inconsistent team. Some days the defense is good. Sometimes the offense is good. Sometimes it flips. Sometimes neither is good. You know what I mean? It's just a whole inconsistent team. So I feel like that applies to every position group, not just linebackers and safeties.
This next one comes from at DBHawks19. I see an out for Jamal Adams, dead money of $20+ million, but thought I heard it would be less than $20 million. Is it true? And how much money will Brooks get? Jordan Brooks, that is.
Yeah, on Jordan, he's probably an 8-figure guy a year. Jordan's really good, which makes it yeah, he's really good. That's all I'll say. I would say he's an 8-figure guy, probably. So that's like 10 million plus. I would say that's what I would get Jordan. Jordan's really good. I don't know what the linebacker market. I feel like the inside guys didn't get paid a ton last year in the offseason. I don't think Jordan's like a reset the market, Shaquille Leonard, Fred Warner type of guy, because I think that market's up to about 20 million. I wouldn't do that probably, or I don't anticipate that happening. But I do think he's in the $10 million. Or not 10 million, just eight figures. What did Quandre's deal make? I think it was like 13 or something. I could see Jordan in that range. Young cat, fast cat, versatile cat, can rush the passer, can cover, pretty good tackler. Yeah, I that's probably where I'd go. With Jamal, I haven't given that Jordan one too much thought before today. That was a good question. With Jamal, if you want to just cut him or trade him or whatever, before June 1st. It's a dead money cap. It's a dead money hit of 20.8 million. That is correct. To my man who asked the question, you only save $6 million. Guys, that's not a lot of savings. However, we've seen guys get moved for less. So there is that. The reason that you have heard that it could be less than 20 million is if you do what's called a post June 1 cut, which means you can cut a guy in like February and declare that, hey, we're cutting him now, but really we would cut him on June 2nd, And what that means is you take that dead money hit and you spread it out. So instead of being a $20 million dead money hit, you get a 10.4 or whatever for the next 2 years. It changes your cap savings a little bit. I think the cap saving goes up 10 million since you're cutting that $20 million in half. So you could do that. You could designate him as like a post June 1. I think that goes to saving. Damn, Chris, I just did a bunch of math. It goes from 6 to probably like 16 million, something like that. So yes, the answer to the question, there is an out. There is an out. I don't know if they take that. I will say this on Jamal, and Chris would probably agree on this. I don't think if they move on from Maul, it would be for reasons that don't have to do with football. I don't think it because of any tweets or anything he says to the media or anything like that. If they do, it'll be a football decision, which I think is what it should be.
Yeah, I've been watching the film. It's been a rough season for your boy.
Yeah, if it's football, as we are Jamal. Jamal Adams can cover fan club here. At least we were. I'm jumping off that, but yeah, it will be purely for football reasons. I can't stress enough that I don't think I feel very strongly that these guys would not be like, wow, man, he called that dude's wife ugly. Let's get rid of him. No, I'm not gonna do that. They've kept guys who've done way worse things. You know, we don't got to dive into all of them, but they have. So it'll be for football reasons. I feel very confident about that. I feel like everyone should keep that in mind. A couple tweets and some bad press conferences is not going to get a guy shipped out of town for a dead money hit of 10 plus million. No. It's got to be football reasons.
This next one comes from Eric at Tweets Are Dumb. Speaking of Jamal Adams, I see a lot of people saying get rid of him, while at the same time, want to start over with a new coach. Is the current staff using Adams in the best way? I don't watch New York Jets often, at least when Jamal was there. Do you know how they used him when he was in New York?
Yeah, it wasn't exact. It looked a little bit like this. I think part of the difference this year is because Jamal's knee is not all the way there. It's not. He has said it. We can all see it. He's just not moving like him, is what it is. That said, guys play when they're not themselves all the time. And we got to judge you by what you put out there, unfortunately. You know, Tyler wasn't himself after a broken leg. Quandre wasn't himself after a broken leg. DK played with a broken foot a couple years ago. Gino's arm, you guys seen it. Go to Gino's Twitter. He posted a picture of his arm. That joint looked disgusting. It was like he got bit by a bear. But if you're healthy enough to play, judge you on your play. Is what it is. It's the nature of the game. So I think that's part of it. Whether how he's being used, independent of that, if his knee ain't there, he ain't gonna perform, no matter how it's being used. But I think the usage is fine. Like I don't think like sending him on more blitzes or like they're putting him near the line of scrimmage. You can't just make him a linebacker. He's like 200 whatever pounds, right? You just can't do that. You know, he's not going to hold up consistently over a season, particularly with a bad knee. So yeah, I don't think the usage is the issue. I think for a lot of the guys on defense, it feels like it's mental or trust. I feel like guys just aren't trusting it, whatever it is. The guy next to him, themselves, the scheme. I don't know, but I feel like they have the talent. The calls and the scheme are putting them near the guy with the ball, and the plays are just not being made, or they're getting flags, jumping off sides or hitting guys in the face. Like I don't think that's a scheme thing. I think that you can look at Jamal and wonder that, but really, if you guys think about it, if someone's wide open, it really doesn't feel like that many times. It's like, oh man, look at that great call against that coverage. Sometimes it's just like, nah, bro, flip your hips, find the ball, you know. Get lower than the other guy, you know. It feels like stuff like that more than it feels like, ooh, man, this scheme stinks.
This next one comes from at Hawks in a Blue Sky. Why no Kenny Mack?
Oh, yeah, Kenny McIntosh didn't play again. Guys, I'm not going to lie. I really don't think – I see why we asked about this in the other games where Ken was hurt, Zach was hurt. I feel like no, Ken played today. Zach played today. DJ's their third down guy. I really don't think that Kenny was going to come in and make much of a difference. I could see yeah, man, just throw the rookie out there, see what he can do. Feel you. But, I mean, look what Ken and Zach can do. Ken took a play that should have been nothing and made it 27 yards. He can do that. I'm not taking him off the field. Look at Zach on them two big runs. Like, I'm not taking him off the field to experiment. You know what I'm saying? I'm not taking him off. Maybe in a blowout. All right, cool. Guy gets hurt. All right, cool. But I really don't feel like this is very similar to QB for me in that, guys, there's other problems. I want to see Kenny play too, but that is currently low on the list of things that would make the Seahawks offense better. Unless he can play right guard, I don't think it's much. It's very urgent. Maybe you throw him out there on a couple third downs. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think that's like an urgent thing they got to switch up, particularly if Ken and Zach are healthy.
This next one comes from Dave DeVoe. Brandon Aubrey makes 750 bands a season. 28 straight to start his career, field goals that is. Myers makes $5.2 million a year. They extended him, the Seahawks did. Why pay him that money when better kickers are available? 60-yarder and 59-yarder were made tonight by Brandon Aubrey.
That's the kicker for the Cowboys, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, can't fully compare a guy who kicks in a dome to a guy that kicks outside. Is part of that. But you guys know me. I ain't about to get up here and defend no kickers. Never kick, brother. That's what you should do for real. I'm a big never kick train. We had a never kick moment today. They ran a fake punt. It was beautiful until dude decided to just take Artie Burns' legs out. That looked dirty.
Bro,
that looked dirtier than what DK did.
Did you see the replay?
Yeah, I saw it live and the replay. That was crazy.
He tripped.
He took Artie's knees out. No,
but he
took Artie's knee out.
No, we're going to. Yes, it wasn't even a fake punt. Bro realized that there was whatever. The biggest thing is he tripped.
That is a fake punt.
Yeah, you're right. But he tripped and fell, Mike. He didn't purposely watch his right leg. He's trying to make a move to get in front of him, and he literally falls over his own feet. I tweeted and said, bro tripped over his own feet and got flagged for a illegal block. That hurts. I was laughing my ass off.
That is, that's fair. Even if it's inadvertent.
Oh yeah,
man almost took Artie's knees out. That was crazy.
But it was an accident though, bro. Okay, that's not the point. But anywho, yes, whatever.
Yeah, they had that never kick moment. The other never kick. Pete Carroll I forget what Pete said about it, but man, not going for that 4th and 2 was so simple.
I understand his big I'm going to summarize it. He didn't feel like he didn't want to be responsible for, hey, if we as the Seahawks don't get it, I give them the ball at the 40 and their offense has been pretty much rolling. I'd rather pin them and see if our defense can make a play. And you would say, well, Pete, your defense has been stinking all year. Why even do that? Just go for it. Pete didn't want to risk it. He thought it was better for them to go march down the field and try to score than to give them short field if they don't get that first down.
I just hate how
I know.
Well, here's it's the process. I just hate defaulting to, all right, what if we don't get it? Well, what if you do? What if you do? I have the transcript in front of me of Pete's answer, and yeah, he says I didn't want the game to be decided right there. You give him the ball on the 40-yard line. It's a tough game or a tight game. I figure we won't kick the ball and play defense and play it like where you just don't give him the ball at the 40-something yard line. He's kind of rambling here. Maybe there's some typos, but he says, you're giving them that the whole first half if you do that. I'm always fine about that one, meaning I'm always fine about his decision. No mention of what would happen if they got it. I just feel like it's so strange that this guy is so overly positive and optimistic about everything until it's time to try to move the sticks. You know what I mean? He's been better at it this year, to be fair. Like, I don't have the numbers, but I do think Pete's been a little bit more aggressive in these go-for-it situations, I think. However, I just don't like how it seems like you didn't even think about what happens if you got it. Everything was just framed as if, what if you don't? And I just feel like you can't look at it that way. I feel like that's a bad way to look at it. If you believe in your offense, and if you believe in your defense that you're going to get a stop, go for it, man. I just don't like logic. Or you don't even always have to go for it, even though I'm team never kick. This was a question about Jason Myers. We're just not answering it. But I feel like, I feel like the more important thing is never kick, but also, dog, every 4th down can't be framed as, well, damn, what happens if we don't get it? No, man. You need to also consider what happens if you do. You do, man. That's important. Anyway, the next question, man. I don't like how he thinks that way. I just don't.
Next one comes from @RockPaperCloud. Can you ID things that the Seahawks did right that they hadn't before?
Oh boy, not really. They've always been good at play action. They were good at that today. That little 3-play sequence in what was that, the third quarter? That was great stuff. Got like a little fluky play from Ken, but then came right back and attacked. I think Greenlaw had got hurt, and then so they brought in another linebacker. And then I don't know if they went right at him, but they had Noah up the sideline. And then the very next play was the trick one to Colby. I was like, oh, Shane's back. Good for him. But those are all play action. They were different play actions, but they were all play action. They've always done that well, though. And that's why, because the answer to this question is no, I feel like that's what's so alarming about the result. There was nothing today that I was like, yeah, no, at least they worked on that. Like, I didn't see it. Like, for real, they were just nothing. I felt like the consistency is not there on either side of the ball. And consistency doesn't mean score every time. No one does that. Like, that's just not. But it's just, you guys know what I mean. It's like some drives they're tackling, some drives the guys are running wide open. Some drives the pass rush is there, whether they're getting sacks or not. You know what I'm saying? Then on offense, like, all right, sometimes we can play action. Sometimes we can use the tight ends. Sometimes we're opening holes in the running game. Sometimes guys are just getting whipped, and Ken's getting cracked. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, I didn't watch this game. Granted, I didn't watch the film yet, but I didn't watch this game live and be like, yeah, clearly they worked on that. Whereas last week, I was like, oh, clearly they worked on their third downs, because of how they played against Dallas. Today, I'm like, oh, it looks like they didn't work on anything. It looks like just went out there and decided not to block or tackle. It's terrible. I know that wasn't the case, but that's what it looked like. You can't argue with it. Eye in the sky don't lie, man. That's what it looked like today.
This next one comes from Rosebug_22. His second question. At what point do they need to move on from DK? Yes, he's talented, but his constant pouting and acting out every time they lose or he doesn't have a good game is toxic.
Yeah, this is the one. See how I didn't call this a good question? Because I actually reject the theme of this and that he's toxic. I think toxic is about what happens internally. I feel like we've seen toxic. I feel like we've seen when a guy is in the building and his presence has a negative impact on the product. It has a negative impact Monday through Saturday, and that bleeds into Sunday. Like, we've seen that, right? Like, we saw that with like Percy Harvin, for example. He had to go. He had to go. He was getting in fights with his teammates. Guys resented him. They didn't like that he got vaulted up the depth chart, and they didn't like how he kicked it. There was tons of things. Go on and on about it. But that was an example of, is it toxicity? It doesn't matter. That was an example of a toxic situation. We've seen others. I don't think we need to rattle them all off or go to them, but the other one is Russ, most recent. That was just an untenable situation. It became untenable. He had to go. Or he had to go, or Peter John had to go. Like, clearly Jody chose up. We've seen that. DK is not that. Not even that he's just not to that extreme. It's just quite literally just not that. Like, when I talk to guys, and granted, I haven't had a ton of conversations with other people in the building about DK, just here and there. But when I talk to people in the building about things that are wrong, trust me, if you want to talk toxic, it ain't number 14. Yeah, some of the post-play stuff, guys are like, dog, what do you do? But it's football. If anybody can understand when a guy gets upset about something and does something, it's other football players. And to be clear, that's not what happened with DK today. He thought, hey, bro, why you push me in the back of the head? Now I broke my neck before. What's up with you, dog? Like, that's legit. You know what I'm saying? That's legit. And other guys feel that way too, coaches too, and all that stuff. I think we've seen toxic. The Russ situation was an example. I think Percy is like Seahawks fans can feel when it's legit, like, okay, this guy has to get out of here. DK is far, far, far from that. Like, I would probably guess, I don't think he's at this point either, but like, it feels like Jamal's closer to that than DK would be. Honestly, I feel like DK is not in the toxic category. He's really not. There's other problems wrong with the Seahawks systemically. I don't think DK falls in that category.
This next one comes from Big Ass Eyebrows. I feel today showed the value of two players, Geno and Spoon. Is that a correct assessment?
Maybe Geno to some extent, but I mean, I put some of the numbers in my story. I mean, Drew was about, and look at how Drew played against the 49ers and versus how Geno has played against the 49ers. It was about the same across the board. Some of Drew's numbers were better. actually a handful of Drew's numbers were better. EPA, passer rating, yards per attempt, passing yards, a bunch of stuff that was better. It was all about the same. It really was. Not to say that they're the same player, but you put up both of them out there against a largely the same Niners defense, and it looked largely the same. So I don't think this game necessarily says, see, Geno, man, they need Geno. This was more like a see, and everyone else is bad too. Spoon, though, I feel that. I do think Spoon at nickel was a legit difference maker. I mean, he got hurt making a difference. He got hurt on a PBU that he almost probably would have intercepted if he just didn't get cracked in the back. So yeah, I think today, if I had to pick of those two, I'd say closer to being like, hey, look, see, they need Spoon versus like, see, they needed 7 out there and they would have got it done. Yeah, I don't think that was the case based on what we saw on film, or at least live today.
This next one comes from Blueberry Chuck. Is there actual reason for encouragement in the last 2 L's?
Not really. I do think that the only thing that's like it kind of gives me a little encouragement for the Eagles game in particular is that the Eagles also are not very good. Like I felt this way for a little bit because their defense is garbage. Like their defense is worse than the Seahawks defense, and that's saying a lot because the Seahawks are pretty bad statistically, and film shows it too. So no, I don't think anything really is like, guys, might have something here. No. If anything, I'm getting more pessimistic each week. The only thing that made me feel better about Monday night was watching the Sunday night game and being like, see, the Eagles don't tackle either. That was it. Because in the Eagles offense too, I'm not super thrilled about because we've seen them play the last 2 teams that the Seahawks have played, and they've struggled. Drew Lock moved the ball better against the Niners defense than Jalen Hurts and them did. Really? That's alarming if I'm Philly. We just saw Geno Smith carve up a Dallas defense that Jalen and them couldn't score a touchdown against. That's alarming. But again, I think that, I know, right? Yeah, it's bad. But I think that's more about Philly than it is Seattle, honestly. Nothing about the last 2 losses has been like, there's something here. No. If anything, I'm just being like, well, Philly not that good either. That's it.
This next one comes from Scott Nelson. Why do opponents the Seahawks face have no trouble moving the ball downfield, but the Seahawks, they can't do it?
Oh, that's it. That's an easy one. Other teams are better and better prepared and playing with more effort and playing more in sync. They're being more on one page. Word to Sean McDermott. Oh my goodness, terrible. I know that was God. Do a whole pod on that quote. That was crazy. But yeah, I really think that other teams are being better between the headsets for real, particularly on offense. I'm really not high on Seattle's like whole offense top down. I'm really not. I feel like they got the pieces and they're just not being used properly. So yeah, I think that's the easy answer. The headsets. Monday through Saturday is where the Seahawks are losing these games. Actually, I shouldn't say that totally. I think Monday through Saturday is where they're losing these games offensively, for sure. That's where I feel like. I feel like they come into the game and look like the other team had a better plan, not only executed it, but just had a better one. Like there's some games where I just question the Seahawks plan on offense in particular.
This next one comes from Young Slick X. It's simple. Where do the Seahawks go from here?
Oh man. That's a good question. Where do the Seahawks go from here? Well, they need to go to the mirror. They really do need to go to the mirror. And it's just like, am I getting the job done? Am I doing my job? And for everyone, that's different. For a long snapper, that's different than the kicker, than the offensive coordinator, to the O-line coach, to whoever's job it is to put all the cut-ups together of all the other team's third downs. Whoever it is. Everybody really needs to do that. And be like, if I'm not doing it, if the answer is no, then why not? Why am I not doing my job good enough? And if the answer is like, if a guy goes in the mirror and be like, yep, I am doing my job. Cool. Why aren't the results there? Like there's a follow-up. Like, really, I think that is. I don't think there's some scheme stuff that you can change with this team and all that. But I think really it comes down to, in a lot of cases, everyone, whether you wear a headset and a polo or you wear pads, looking at yourself and being like, yo, man, am I doing good enough? And if you feel like your answer is yes, then ask yourself why the results aren't there consistently, because no one's been consistent. Ask yourself why the results ain't been there. And if you ask yourself that and you're like, dang, I'm not good enough. I haven't been doing good enough. And ask yourself why, for real. I feel like everyone needs to start there. That sounds like a cop-out answer, but I mean, it's hard to just go through everything that's wrong. I mean, we did for 90 minutes. But for real, man, I feel like if everyone does that and be honest with themselves, maybe you'll get some things changed, because there's no way everyone can feel like, yep, I'm doing my job every week. You know, that is what it is. There's no way. And that's head coach, that's coordinators, everybody. Pete has openly admitted, like, yep, I didn't do my part this week. We weren't ready. Dog, what? That's crazy. No, for real. That's crazy to me. Come on, man. Like, oh yeah, I didn't have our guys ready to play on Thanksgiving. Again? The Niners again? Of all the teams to not be ready against? Are you kidding me? It's crazy. Yeah, it's like, I mean, the defense come out not ready to play multiple times in a row. Talk about starting faster every week. First play is 70 yards. Come on, man. What we doing? The last time, it's crazy. The pod's gone too long anyway. Not too long, but you guys get what I'm saying. It's just, I feel like that's what everybody needs to do. Sorry, that's the answer to that. Let's move on. I could go all day.
We got two more, Mike. This one comes from mid-July, baby.
these Twitter names feel like they're fake. Oh, this is funny.
He wants to play a game.
Okay.
Pick a quarterback from the draft that best fits the Seahawks. If you don't, I'm kidding. I'm trying to do my best Saw impression. It ain't working out.
Jigsaw, dog. You scared me. I'm in a hotel by myself. Don't do that.
So yeah, he wants us to pick a quarterback from the draft that best fits the Seahawks. You know, I haven't really dived in. I haven't really dived in on the film study and reading articles on these quarterbacks, but just off what I've seen, it's got to come from someone in the Pac-12. I know Mike disagrees. He's got someone dirty south, but I'll go with between Bo Nix and Michael Penix. I honestly go with whoever, you know. It don't matter. I would say one of those two. I mean, there's a lot of problems with the Seahawks right now, which we alluded to for the last 90 minutes. But if someone could come in and just get the offense rolling and keep it afloat, one of those two I would go with. Who you got, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels over down at LSU, who I do think that's the guy from Arizona State, right? Didn't he start in the Pac-12? So maybe technically I'm picking a Pac-12 guy. But yeah, the reason I would go for that is if you have years and years and years of just not being able to run the ball, and you switch out coordinators, they switched out O-line coaches, change running backs. I feel like, and I shouldn't say the Seahawks can't run the ball, but you guys get the point. I feel like one way to do that, running the ball sometimes, is about the numbers. The way to change the numbers in the run game is to make the quarterback part of the run game. It's not super sustainable because then your quarterback takes hits, but that dude down there in LSU can run, boy. He can run. So put him in there. You get the zone read thing going, change the numbers. I feel like they could do that with Geno too. Maybe he just doesn't want to, but like it basically can't. Their shotgun runs, I feel like, are kind of crap because they can't really have the quarterback be part of the math. It's like no one has to respect the QB fake the way the Seahawks have done it with Geno and with Drew for the most part. Whereas I just saw Baker do a quarterback keep today on the 1 yard line and run over somebody and score, right? Like, and he made the wrong read, but it's like because he put that on tape today, the other teams have to respect it. He's done that before, but you guys get the point. So yeah, I like the running quarterback just for that reason, if no other one.
This last one comes from Corduroy Orbison @_Proto. Hey, man, they get creative out here in these streets. What's the best way to honor Pete's last games with the team? He's done so much. Feels like fans should say goodbye in style.
Oh, man, this is a lovely question to end on. My man has already decided Pete's out of here. He's like, yo, man, let's get the video tribute ready. It's coming. Tell the video department, get that cooking. Go find all the best heartwarming moments. That's crazy. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Not unfortunate, but in the world where we're in like the farewell tour kind of era, Kobe got his, LeBron's gonna get one. I think Derek Jeter kind of got one as well. Everyone kind of knew that was like Big Ben's last run in Pittsburgh. I don't feel like we're gonna know ahead of time that it's Pete's last game, whenever that is, whether that's this year or next year, whatever. We just won't really know, I don't think. So we won't get to do that. However, if we do, he has to throw a challenge flag in the last game. I'm talking like just an egregious one. Like that has to be part of it. That has to be part of it. Maybe he like should throw some gum at a ref. I think this is all part of what he should do. Maybe everyone chews gum. Maybe everyone wears Monarchs to the game. I'm not really sure. But if we know ahead of time, maybe that's part of it. But other than that, yeah, I just don't think we'll know. I don't think we'll get like he'll be a lame duck kind of dead man walking type of situation. It will feel like, oh yeah, no, he's gonna go in there and do it, and then whenever it is, he'll retire or whatever. It'll feel sudden, I think. At least more sudden than like, oh, we knew this was the last time. Like with Russ, for example, what was Russ's last game? That Cardinals game? Maybe not the Cardinals game, that Lions game. That last Lions game at home with Russ. We could kind of feel that might be his last game. I think he was even asked about it. I think Bobby too might have kind of had that feeling, but I don't think we'll have that with Pete. Maybe if they're already eliminated by that Arizona game, perhaps. The Arizona game this year, that is, perhaps. That would probably be it. Maybe that's there. And if so, yeah, everyone wear Monarchs or get the video tribute ready, or maybe he says a speech at halftime, or not at halftime, sorry. Post game. I'm not sure. But yeah, he has earned that. I do think he has earned something whenever that is the last thing. I think he's earned that. Harbaugh in Baltimore has earned that whenever that is. Bill Belichick has damn sure earned that. And then, yeah, Mike T in Pittsburgh. They've all earned that. I feel like they're all in the same little space, like I mentioned earlier, except for Harbaugh right now because they might go win the championship. But other than that, those other two guys with Pete, they all should get some type of thing when it's over because they did earn that. This is the best coaching franchise history.
There it is. Well, we want to thank you guys for rocking with us on this long episode of Seahawks Man to Man. We appreciate all the love and support. If you haven't yet and you're listening, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. Just type in Seahawks, MAN, the number 2, man, the Seahawks Man to Man, and go up subscribe. We'll come back to you guys later this week with our standout plays of the week. So stay tuned for that.
It's going to be tough.
Well, it's going to be tough, but how about this? We'll have plays for you from that game against the Niners.
Yes,
definitely have plays that we can discuss, break down, good and bad. So stay tuned for that. Mike, is there anything you'd like to add before we get out of here?
Yes, my appreciation, as always. We appreciate you guys for listening, for subscribing. I forgot to tell you guys to do that. My bad. But subscribing, listening, liking, sharing, asking questions. Thank you so much. We appreciate all the love and support. You guys have a good week. Stay safe out there. And we will talk to you guys later in the week ahead of Seahawks and Eagles. Peace.